Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Courtney. I do food and kitchen content. I was on a meal prepping kick, but since we are on a break from our homeschool co-op right now, I've been cooking random things using up items in my fridge and pantry that have been there a little too long. So if you are interested in seeing the meals that I'm throwing together, they're always budget friendly and always listed or linked down below. All right, let's start with these ribs. Now, I know some people will say ribs are expensive. However, if you live near a grocery store owned by the United chain, so that's Albertsons or Market Street, there might be one or two others in there. They often do buy one, get one free on pork ribs. So for less than $10, you can get 2 racks of ribs. That's a good price. So I'm starting off by prepping my ribs. We like to smoke ribs pretty often. However, tonight I'm going to show you guys my oven method. I think I've shown it before, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I like to line my sheet pan with foil because sometimes things can get messy. And then I'm pulling this, I think it's silver skin or something, off the back. This is what makes ribs super tough. Just kind of slide your knife under the end and use a paper towel to help you get a really good grip on it, and then just pull it off. It's all along that back part back there. As you can see, there's a little more on the top. You don't have to get every last bit of it off. And you can also trim off some of the excess fat if you want to. I typically will leave mine on just because the juice that it creates adds extra juiciness and flavor. It keeps the ribs from drying out, that kind of thing. And my ribs are always fall apart tender. I mean, like the bones will slip out if you're not too careful. If you want to hold them by the bones, my method's not going to work for you. They are so tender and juicy. I did end up leaving that last little bit of that silver skin on because it just didn't want to come off, and it didn't affect anything. It wasn't super tough. Once I served the ribs, they were perfectly fine. But that's all you have to do to prep them, and it is the secret to making your ribs a lot more tender and a lot easier to eat. Now, these are pork spare ribs. I find pork to be a lot more affordable than beef. So that's just my tip for you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and flip them over. I like to keep them this side facing up because I think it's just better that way. And I'm using this CLAUDES brisket marinade. Now, it is a personal favorite in my household. We use it all the time for brisket. If you have a different marinade you like, you can use that as well. But this one, I gotta say, it's so good. If you've not tried it, it is fantastic. So I'm putting about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup on there, and I'm just kind of folding up the sides to make sure that all of that liquid will stay in there with the ribs. And I let them sit in the fridge like this for about 2 hours before I cooked them. But do make sure that you seal the top with foil. We want these to kind of gently cook and steam inside of this. We will worry about getting like a little bit of a, I don't know, cooking them openly in a little bit. But first, you want to let them just steam gently. I'm going to be serving these Brussels sprouts. These were like a spicy maple. There's a sauce pack in there. I picked them up half off, which was a great deal. I love Brussels sprouts. My whole household does. So I'm just going to follow the directions, put them in the air fryer, and then toss them in the sauce. And I'm going to pair it with a box of mac and cheese. Who doesn't love mac and cheese? And it really is a very affordable side in today's economy. You can still grab a box at like of a store brand for less than $1. So once I had cooked the ribs at 250 for about 2.5 hours, this is what they look like. They're not as pretty as they could be, but my fork is literally just sliding in and out. There is zero resistance, which is what tells me these ribs are perfectly done. So now we want to develop a little bit of a bark. I'm using this Cooper seasoning. You can use any kind of seasoning that you prefer, or just go with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And I'm sprinkling it fairly generously over the top of these ribs. We're going to now leave them completely uncovered, and we're going to pop them under the broiler for about 5 minutes. Keep a close eye on them though. You don't want them to burn, but you do want that bark to develop. And that's all you have to do. There's the Brussels sprouts, the mac and cheese, and look at those ribs. They were so tender and so juicy. They fell off the bone, and the flavor was incredible. Okay, so we're going to make some pork chops. I'm actually making a meal just for my husband and myself. It was rare, but on occasion we do get the house to ourselves. So I decided to cook us a nice meal. I have these pork ribeye chops that have been in my freezer a while. As you could see, I did get them on a markdown special. I get a lot of stuff that way at Market Street. So if you are looking to save a little bit of money, I do say always check out the meat section and look for those yellow stickers. I'm going to marinate these, and I will link the recipe for the marinade down below. It's a Texas Roadhouse pork chop recipe. So it starts with some Worcestershire sauce and then a little bit of soy sauce. I like this kind. I'm just going to say, like, if you have access to this one, I think it is so good. The flavor is so much better than the other ones. I'm throwing in a little bit of liquid smoke. The recipe doesn't call for it, but I want to kind of mimic that grilled flavor because I'm cooking these on the stovetop. I'm also throwing in a little bit of smoked paprika. Regular would work as well, but again, the smoke from the smoked paprika mimics that grill flavor, which is really something I am looking for. Plus, I just have a preference for smoked paprika. I think it tastes amazing. Also going to throw in a little bit of onion powder. The recipe also calls for garlic, but I have garlic oil, which is what I'm going to add in just a minute. So if you don't, add in some garlic powder or fresh garlic as well. Some salt and some pepper just to kind of round out those flavors, and then a little bit of olive oil. Now, I will say I marinated my pork chops for a couple of hours, and the meat was amazing. The recipe that I'm linking also lists a sauce recipe, which I actually did make, and it was so bad. So I am not sharing that because we didn't eat it. I made another sauce, and that is what I will show you. But the sauce that was in this recipe just, no, it didn't work. No. If you want to try it, or if you found a way to tweak it, that is fantastic. But it really kind of had like a heavy mayonnaise-y, greasy taste. If you read through it, the main ingredient is mayonnaise. That just wasn't what I wanted paired with my meat. So I just poured my marinade over the top there, and then I lift up the pork chops and make sure the marinade gets underneath them as well. And again, like I said, covered in the fridge for a couple of hours, 30 minutes minimum. But if you can do like 2 hours or maybe all day while you're gone at work, that's even better. The longer they sit in the flavor, the better they're going to taste. Now I'm going to make the sauce that I ended up making, which I'm going to tell you straight up, it has sherry in it, which I know can be a bit more of an expensive ingredient. So here is my solution for that. I had sherry in my fridge, and I've been trying to use it up for a while, so I make sauces out of it. They're actually fantastic sauces. But if you do not have sherry, substitute beef broth in place of it and add in 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. It won't taste exactly the same, but it's going to taste close, and it's going to taste good. The thing with sherry is it's rich and it's deep, but it's also a little bit sweet. So as long as you get that brown sugar in there, it's going to taste really, really good. Now, I did put some butter in there and then some of my confit garlic. You could sub fresh garlic or jarlic or garlic powder, whatever you have. I also threw in some rosemary. Fresh is better, but I only have the dried stuff on hand, as I imagine most of us do. I don't think most of us keep fresh plants, like fresh herbs around as often. They're expensive and they have a short shelf life. But I think most of us do have a pretty decent spice rack at this point. I did add a little bit of salt and pepper in as well. And then some, the recipe calls for heavy cream, but I subbed the super thick oat milk, and it worked out perfectly. Also, it's cheaper than heavy cream right now, which have you seen how much heavy cream costs? Oh my gosh. So if you want to save a few dimes there, just use the extra thick oat milk in place of heavy cream. It thickened beautifully, made a lovely sauce. That sauce was amazing. I could have drank it. Oh my gosh. It was so good. All right, next I'm going to dress up a box of couscous. I have a couple of boxes in my pantry. They've just been like hanging out there. So I'm going to dress it up. Now, I will also say this recipe will also work for one of those boxed rice mixes. So if you had like the herb and garlic rice-a-roni or the chicken rice-a-roni, something like that, you could do this exactly the same, just follow the package directions. So I had a couple of carrots in my fridge and some celery and half an onion that needed to be used. So I went ahead and started sauteing those in a little bit of garlic oil. If you don't have garlic oil, throw some garlic or garlic powder or something in there. And just let them cook for a few minutes until they soften. We do want to also add in a little bit of pepper, but skip the salt because the package mix that we're using has salt in it. Just follow the instructions after that. So for me, I had to bring some water and the seasoning mix for this couscous up to a boil. Once it was boiling, I add in the couscous and you let it sit for 5 minutes with the lid on. If you're doing rice-a-roni, follow those instructions. It takes a little bit longer to cook, but the result is the same. We've added some extra veggies and just kind of stepped up our side dish game. All right, it is finally time to cook those pork chops. They have been marinating and getting so delicious. My gosh, this marinade is magical. It was so good. I decided that I do want to cook them in a bit of butter just to help them get a nice sear and brown on the outside. but I also added a little bit of oil in there to keep the butter from burning. And I just popped those right in there. I did not bother drying them off because I wanted to trap as much flavor as I could in them. And then I just cooked them. I let them sit, you know, for like 3 or 4 minutes and flipped them over so they would develop some color and stuff. And I did that until they were fully cooked all the way through. And it was really easy. These are super thick, so they did take a few extra minutes, but not that long at all. I topped them with the sauce. Oh, they were so good. And I just had some air fryer cauliflower. It was just like a frozen thing that had a seasoning mix with it, which was also good. All right, we are heading on to the last meal for the week. My husband smoked a turkey, and it was so good. I had some left in the fridge, and I was trying to think of a way to use it besides sandwiches, and I was like, it's smoked turkey. It's going to be so good in quesadillas, but not just quesadillas. Let's do some fajita quesadillas because it does help to kind of get some extra veggies in there. I had really wanted to serve these with like some rice and beans as well, but I was super busy this day and just didn't have the time. I sliced up some onions and bell peppers and just sauteed those for a few minutes in garlic oil. And I added in some salt and pepper, Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of liquid smoke. I did probably about a tablespoon of Worcestershire and half a teaspoon of liquid smoke. You could do more or less depending on your preference. And I made this ahead of time because, like I said, we were super busy. I was running errands. We did school in the morning, then we had to go run errands. Then we came home and put the groceries away. I did this, and we had to go back out, and we were meeting some friends. So this was a crazy busy day. So I just popped those in the fridge, and when I came home, I was able to throw some quesadillas together. So this is such a great way to use up meats or veggies. Keep in mind, like black beans and veggies in a quesadilla are fantastic. You don't even have to have meats, but you'll still get a nice protein-packed meal that is super filling. So I like to use flour tortillas. I have seen some people use corn, which I don't know how that really works out. I feel like it would get the texture would be weird, but you do you, whatever you want. You can use any size flour tortilla or any of those like Carb Smart tortillas, anything like that. It's all good. So I like to put a little bit of butter down on my skillet. Then I put my tortilla down and I top it there so that the cheese that I put on the bottom layer has an opportunity to start melting ahead of time. Then you just pack your fillings on. So for me, it's going to be the peppers and onions that I cooked that are so good. And then some of the smoked turkey that I just diced just into like, bite-sized pieces. So it would fit in here quite nicely. This was such a good pairing and such a fun way to use up some leftover turkey. Of course, turkey salad would have been great too. Instead of, chicken salad, we could have done turkey salad, but I wanted to do something a little different. We don't do quesadillas very often because my oldest son does not like cheese and my middle son can't have dairy. However, I just decided to run with it tonight. Everybody kind of ate different things anyway, so this worked out beautifully. And again, I'm just going to toast it and kind of move it around a little bit to make sure the tortilla toasts nicely. And here's the magic. You got to check out the toast on this tortilla. Oh, it was so good. Look at that. Oh, so crispy and so delicious. I had enough butter on the skillet. I didn't have to add any more, but I was trying to kind of scoot the top over because it got a little bit uneven. That's okay. And I just cooked up some quesadillas for everybody that was eating some, and I just served them with some guacamole because again I just ran out of time, and as you can see I was using my super fancy china there. Some nights are like that. That's real life, All right, guys, that's what I cooked this week. It was a busy week at my house. I bet you guys were busy too. It's leading up to the holidays. It's chaos. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope y'all are having a fabulous weekend, and I should have a Thanksgiving sides video coming up tomorrow, Sunday, so be sure to check that out. I hope I see you guys there. Have a great one. Bye.